Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into a really unique piece of writing. Gabriel Garcia Marquez's short story, I Sell My Dreams.
Yeah, it's a fantastic one. We've got the story itself, which has that amazing mix of, the real and the fantastical Marquez is so known for.
Right, and we also have some analysis to kind of help us unpack it all.
Exactly. Helps give us some different angles.
So our goal today, pretty simple really, get to the heart of this story. What are the main ideas? How does Marquez work his magic, that magical realism thing?
And of course, Frau Frida, this character, she just stays with you.
Totally. This woman who claims she sells her dreams. I mean, it's a premise that just hooks you straight away, doesn't it?
Absolutely. What does that even mean, selling dreams, and what happens because of it? Let's jump in.
Okay, but first, maybe just a quick word on, like, what a short story is, according to the source material anyway.
Good idea. So yeah, the sources remind us it's focused, right? A tight narrative, limited scope, everything in it, plot, characters, it all works towards a single effect, whether that's, comedy, tragedy, whatever.
And the writer here is Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Huge figure, Nobel Prize winner.
A master, really. Our source calls him a master of Latin American narrative, and you can see why. His stuff often digs into these big themes: violence, solitude.
And that deep human need for love,
Yeah.
right? It's often there.
Definitely. And I Sell My Dreams, it's pure magical realism. That style where the everyday and the totally bizarre just sit side by side.
And it feels normal, almost.
Kind of, yeah. It feels strangely natural. And Marquez uses it, I think, to explore how we sometimes just accept unbelievable things, especially if they fit what we want or fear. That's key to Frau Frida, I think.
So the story itself kicks off with this absolutely wild scene in Havana. You have to picture this.
It's incredible.
A massive wave hits the Riviera Hotel. Not just floods it, but smashes into it with enough force to pick up cars.
And slams one right into the hotel wall.
It's such a powerful image, isn't it? You just can't forget it.
It really is. Visually stunning, and right away you know you're in Marquez territory. Blending the ordinary hotel, cars with something just completely impossible, like a wave doing that.
Sets the stage perfectly.
It does, and in the middle of all that chaos, in that car stuck in the wall, they find a body. A woman's body.
And this is what grabs our narrator. The woman turns out to be the Portuguese ambassador's housekeeper. But it's not who she is that gets him, initially. It's something she's wearing.
Ah, the ring.
The ring.
Yeah.
Gold, shaped like a serpent with emerald eyes.
Yeah.
He recognizes it instantly.
And that serpent ring, it becomes this, symbol throughout the story, doesn't it? A link to someone from his past.
Exactly. He immediately thinks, he fears, that this dead woman might be someone he knew years ago, someone whose real name he never even knew.
And that fear just pulls us right into the past, doesn't it? Into the main story.
Yeah, it flashes back 34 years to Vienna. And the way the source paints Vienna then. Wow.
Post-World War II, right? All black markets and spies.
A really intense backdrop for meeting someone unforgettable.
It really is. And it's there in this sort of murky atmosphere in a student tavern that the narrator first meets her.
And she makes quite an impression.
Oh, definitely. He notices her splendid soprano's bosom, the sort of foxtails on her coat.
And the ring, the serpent ring. Egyptian style, he calls it.
That's the key detail again. He first assumes she's Austrian, given where they are and her Spanish being a bit formal.
But nope. Surprise. She tells him she's Colombian, Frau Frida. Moved to Austria years ago, as a kid, apparently, to study music.
Yeah, and the story notes she wasn't, conventionally beautiful, looked older than her years, maybe, but she had this charm, something captivating about her.
And then she drops the bombshell.
Right? Just says it. I sell my dreams.
Imagine hearing that. The narrator doesn't seem totally shocked, but it's clear this isn't your average introduction.
No kidding. It immediately makes you think, okay, what on earth does that mean? Selling something so personal, so intangible.
Well, we find out it goes back to her family, this tradition they had.
Yeah, telling dreams before breakfast, they believe that's when dreams were most prophetic, powerful.
And there's that story about her brother, the flood dream. It's quite chilling, actually.
It really is. She interprets his dream, tries to prevent a disaster she sees coming, but her interpretation actually causes a tragedy. He chokes on something he wouldn't normally have eaten.
It's awful. And it kind of shows how interpreting these things,
Bad time.
it's dangerous, right? Trying to control fate based on a dream can just backfires spectacularly.
It's a huge warning sign, maybe, about taking subconscious stuff too literally. But for Frau Frieda, it seems like that terrible event just, well, cemented her belief in her own ability.
Or maybe her interpretation of her ability.
Right, and after that, she apparently starts her trade, as the story calls it, interpreting dreams for this rich Viennese family.
And she doesn't just interpret them, she gains incredible influence over them.
Totally. Especially during the war. You know, all that uncertainty. Her predictions basically became their only guide, their sole authority, the text says.
It says a lot about how desperate people get for certainty, doesn't it? Willing to hand over control to something or someone who seems to have answers?
Absolutely. And it works out pretty well for her, financially at least.
Yeah. She inherits a load of money from the head of the family, on one condition.
That she keeps dreaming for them. Incredible.
It really is. But then things get even more interesting when her dreams start involving the narrator himself.
Ah, yes. Back in the student tavern days. She used to visit them, bring them pastries, maybe fueled by a bit of beery euphoria, as the text puts it.
Huh, yeah. And one time, she tells the narrator about a dream she had specifically about him.
And it wasn't vague, was it? It was a direct warning.
No, very clear. Leave Vienna now, and don't come back for 5 years.
And the narrator, he
Yeah.
just does it. No questions asked, apparently.
It's amazing. What does that say about her influence? Or maybe his belief in her by then?
It says a lot. He just trusts her. Or maybe he fears the consequences if he doesn't listen. And later, he feels like he dodged some unknown bullet, right? Like he survived something because he listened to her dream.
It really deepens the mystery around her power, doesn't it?
Definitely. Was it real? Was it just her conviction?
So time passes.
Mm.
Years.
No.
And then completely out of the blue, he bumps into her again.
In Barcelona this time. And who's he with? Only Pablo Neruda.
The poet. What a scene. And the description of Neruda is just brilliant. This invalid elephant, curious like a child, loved his food.
Oh, the lobster story. It makes him seem so vivid, so real. Gluttonous and refined, the narrator calls him.
Perfect. And Neruda, he notices Frau Frieda watching him.
He's perceptive, yeah. And there she is. Older, the narrator says, fatter even.
Still wearing the snake ring.
Always the snake wing. And Neruda, being Neruda, is pretty skeptical about prophetic dreams. He has that great line.
Only poetry is clairvoyant.
Exactly. It sets up this wonderful contrast, doesn't it? Neruda's idea of insight through metaphor and poetry versus Frau Frieda's, well, more literal dream interpretation.
Are they just different ways of seeing hidden truths, maybe?
That's a great question. Marquez seems to be playing with that idea. Different kinds of knowing.
So Frau Frieda tells them she's retired now, living in Oporto, in this, fake castle.
Yeah, and she's living off the fortune she inherited from that Viennese family, which the narrator, importantly, suspects she got through her stratagem of dreams.
The stratagem. That's a key word, isn't it?
Yep.
It implies calculation, maybe even manipulation. Shows his lingering doubt.
It really does. He suspects it wasn't genuine prophecy, but maybe just cleverness playing on their beliefs.
And then she just casually drops, you can go back to Vienna now, 13 years after telling him to leave.
It adds to that feeling of calculation, doesn't it? Like her warnings and permissions are part of some long game only she understands.
Totally. And what about that weird shared dream thing? Neruda dreaming about her, dreaming about him.
Yeah, and her reaction is so interesting. She just brushes it off, saying, dreams like that have nothing to do with real life.
So is she being coy? Deliberately downplaying her powers? Or does she actually make a distinction between different types of dreams?
It just adds another layer of ambiguity, doesn't it? You never quite know where you stand with her.
Okay, let's jump forward again. Back to the start, almost.
Yeah.
The Havana disaster.
Right. The narrator hears about the woman in the car, the housekeeper, and the snake ring.
And that detail, the ring, pulls him back in. He has to find out more. So he goes to see the Portuguese ambassador.
And the ambassador. He's full of praise. Doesn't use her name, interestingly, but calls her extraordinary.
Really talks her up. Paints this picture of someone truly special.
But then the narrator asks the crucial question.
Yeah, he cuts to the chase. In concrete terms, what did she do?
And the ambassador's answer is, well, almost disappointingly simple, in a way.
Nothing. She dreamed.
Just that. She dreamed.
Wow. So how do we even start to unpack all this? The narrator clearly doubts her, thinks it might all be a stratagem for surviving.
Right. He leans towards skepticism. But then again, he did leave Vienna based on her dream. And he felt he survived something because of it. So there's evidence cutting both ways.
It's the core puzzle of the story, isn't it? Real prophetic power or just incredibly skillful manipulation of people's beliefs?
Marquez leaves it wide open. And remember, we're seeing most of this through the narrator's eyes, and his view kind of shifts over time. Maybe he's not entirely reliable.
That's a good point. His own experiences and suspicions definitely color how he tells the story.
And that serpent ring, it keeps popping up. The source material mentions how that symbol can mean different things to us as readers.
Yeah.
Mystery, ancient power, maybe even something a bit dangerous.
For me, it definitely adds to the mystery. What did you feel?
Yeah, mystery, but also consistency. It's the one constant thing about her, this tangible object linked to her very intangible job. It just reinforces that blurring of lines between, the real and the imagined.
And Marquez is such a master at weaving those together. You have this wild idea selling dreams, but it's grounded in real places, real history, characters who react in believable ways.
Absolutely. And that contradiction with the ambassador is so stark, isn't it? He deeply admires this woman who, on paper, did nothing except dream.
What does that say about what we value? Or maybe what we secretly wish we could rely on?
It's a huge irony. She has no normal job, yet commands this incredible respect. And the source brings up how the story taps into our susceptibility to suggestion, doesn't it?
Yeah, and those old superstitions that maybe linger under the surface.
And that connection again between dreams, clairvoyance, and even poetry, like Neruda brought up, all these ways of accessing something beyond the purely rational.
So no easy answers here, which is probably the point.
I think so. It forces you to think about belief itself and how powerful suggestion can be. How something as fragile as a dream can actually change the course of someone's life.
So for Alfredo, true seer, clever con artist, bit of both.
Marquez lets us decide, or maybe just lets us sit with the uncertainty.
And that really highlights his whole thing, that blurry line between reality and fantasy.
Yeah, I Sell My Dreams really makes you think about how fuzzy that line can be in our own lives sometimes, between what we believe and what's quote-unquote real, especially when our hopes and fears get involved.
So here's something to mull over, maybe. Could Frau Frieda's ability, whatever it was, point to some deeper kind of knowing, something subconscious that we don't fully understand?
Or was it all just proof of how powerful suggestion is and how much we humans want to know what's coming next? Maybe think about those moments in your own life, intuitions, coincidences. Do you ever give them that sort of oracular weight?
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for diving into this fascinating story with us.